Took the company public, sold for $64 million in 2000, and I was really broken apart.
I'm friends with a lot of very, very wealthy people now. Every single one that I speak with, from 20 million to 200 million to $2 billion in net worth, they're all focused on saying the exact same thing that you're saying is, I wish I wouldn't have worked as hard.
Entrepreneurship has become too trendy. Only 3% of the world really have the DNA traits to be an entrepreneur.
What's a playbook that you can give to that person that just now went from, I'm working in corporate America, to now I'm a business owner?
There's a lot there to unpack. For anybody who's starting their own business,
I've made the joke to you, but I think I'm probably responsible for at least 1,000 copies of Vivid Vision going out, because back in the day, that was one of the books that crossed my desk, and I said, oh, wait, hold on a second. I finally have a blueprint for creating this art. It's the first time that I saw entrepreneurship and I saw life as art. Because I could create something from thin air and say, okay, universe, okay, God, this is what I want my life to be. And I accomplished it within that time frame. And ever since then, I've accomplished 2 Vivid Visions, full cycle. So now 6 years, here we are. Now we're actually finally able to sit here, chop it up, and talk about entrepreneurship, man.
Well, now I get to read your next one too. So now we're at the end of 2025 or approaching the end. So I want to read your 2028.
Yep.
Right, December 31st Vivid Vision, and have one for you. As well as your company. Like, have one for who Brian Luebben is.
That's what
you are
I've
as a man
with.
And a friend and a partner and describe. I've got a 5-page description of me. Mm-hmm. Then I have a 5-page description of my wife and I and our marriage. Mm-hmm. And then we have one for my company. So I have 3 separate Vivid Visions for different purposes.
It's funny. I have struggled with that. Because when you start doing it, the business one becomes easier and easier and easier, and the personal one becomes harder and harder and harder. So I'm curious, I want to talk about entrepreneurship with you, but let's start there.
Sure.
If there was one thing that you're optimizing for, because I've got my answer, I'm curious about what yours is. If there's one thing you're optimizing for today in your personal Vivid Vision for the next 3 years, what would that be?
Well, and the danger of focusing so much on our business is we lose sight of the rest of ourselves as a human.
Which is why we started the business.
And we become very boring too, though. If somebody's a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or an investment banker, nobody wants to hear about them talk about their passionate business or what they do to make money. Nobody really wants to hear us talk about our company either. So we become this very kind of insulated, isolated, boring human who's so passionate about one thing, but it's really boring to our friends and family. So we really lose sight of ourselves. And I think it puts us at a danger point where we start to identify ourselves as our brand instead of as a human. Because at the end of the day, I just got a new tattoo. This is the Ram Dass quote, walking each other home. And it reminds me that none of this shit really matters. We're all going to die. The death rate is still 100%. That's not changing. Right? So kind of what's this whole thing about?
Yeah.
What was the question?
So if you can narrow down your entire Vivid Vision for your personal life right now into one focus, one core concept, one core idea, what is it right now that we're focusing on?
For me, it's a healthy mind and a healthy body. I'm really trying to, and because I've been a digital nomad for the last 4 years, traveling full-time, 60 countries, my wife and I literally packing up and moving and living out of 2 suitcases, I've really had to work hard to be healthy. I used to weigh 40 pounds heavier than I do right now. I weigh myself every morning. I carry a scale in my suitcase with me. I try to eat healthier. I try to make healthier choices. I try to get to the gym, work out with a trainer. My wife's writing a book on bedtimes right now called The Better Bedtime. So she's into the biohacking. But really thinking about health, because without that, I've got nothing. And I was definitely on tilt a number of years ago. I mean, I go back 25 years ago, I was written up in the Wall Street Journal as somebody whose career went really, really high and flamed out with stress. I had a complete nervous breakdown at 35. So that's been my biggest focus right now.
It's funny. One of the quotes I love is health is the crown that the healthy man wears that only the sick man can see. It's like wellness is the crown, because you don't realize what you have until it's gone. Yeah. And there have been periods and seasons of my life, thankfully short-lived, that when you don't have that, nothing else matters. It's the only thing you think about.
And it sounds so trite, but coming back to America from traveling around the world, I realize how on tilt America really is, sadly.
Everyone else focuses on this stuff besides us.
Yeah, and America's it's really bad. Like, I come to the airport, I flew in from Australia 2 days ago. The obesity is really, it's really sad. It's very visible. And then it's also just, you realize that people don't really have passion and engagement around health. They don't have good healthy habits. They don't have good understanding around it. They don't talk about it. They'd rather talk about the Chicago Bears than talk about how are they getting a better sleep, or how are they waking up in the morning? What are their routines? What are their dietary habits? And doing it within their budget too. You don't have to be rich to be healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I would say that if you aren't healthy, then you're never truly rich, no matter what's in the bank account. Another quote I love is, a healthy man wants, a healthy person wants 100 things, and a sick man wants one
Wants
thing. It's
one.
to be healthy,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's just a lot of people in America don't even know what it feels like to be healthy. They don't know what it would be like to operate at 100% because they've always operated at 50% their entire life.
I think that's why I think back to my personal vivid vision of what am I really trying to build for me? And it is hanging out with friends, doing fun things, having good activities, having hobbies, going to great festivals, not necessarily just buying something, learning, working on my business, working on my spiritual side, but being focused on all those different things and kind of enjoying it's almost like an elephant on a teeter-totter. You kind of have to keep working on the balance. And it doesn't say that I'm not obsessed with scaling my company or growing my business. Absolutely. I've been running my own company for 40 years, but it's now a turning point of thinking of that as one component of me versus the entirety of me.
So they're not mutually exclusive.
Correct.
They're two sides to the same coin.
And we're seeing a lot of entrepreneurs that are able to do that too. I think we've heard that saying of you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Go spend time with entrepreneurs who have healthy habits. I was out 2 days ago spending time with a mutual friend of ours, Brad Weimart, at his home on Lake Austin, and we're out on the water. Right, we're out. We actually did a workout in the morning. We were both working on our business. Then we did a gym workout. Then we hit the water. Then we did more work. You can actually do that and be running your own companies. So surround yourself with people that do those things instead of the person who wakes up in the morning, they go to work, they work all day, they come home late, they kind of are not really present during dinner, they work at night, they work on weekends, they don't have any hobbies, they have no real relationship with their spouse or their kids. Why would you spend time with that person just because they love their business? So we get to choose who we spend our time with.
I'm trying to think because first off, I want to say to the audience that I'm friends with a lot of very, very wealthy people now. I would say almost exclusively, not because of it's a bias, but it's just I want to hang out with people that are where I want to be.
Yep.
So it's like that's why your windshield's way larger than your rear view mirror because I'm forward focused, I'm future focused, and every single one that I speak with, from 20 million to 200 million to $2 billion in net worth, they're all focused on and saying the exact same thing that you're saying is, I wish I wouldn't have worked as hard. I wish I would have focused more on my children when they were young. And I was saying, I'm going to do this for my children as an excuse for
it's too late.
I'm not with my children.
Right.
And now they're saying everything that I did to make all of this money, it didn't actually move the needle on my happiness. It just moved the needle on my ego.
And it destroys everything in its wake.
It destroys everything in its wake. So that's why my goal is let's get everyone rich as fast as possible so that they can understand it's not the answer to happiness.
And remember that richness involves being fully well-rounded. The biggest thing that we can be working on, both of us with our communities, because we both run communities, is making sure that our members are focused on not just the business, not just making money, not just saving money and investing money, but also being a better human. Having better health habits, having better friendships, being vulnerable and open with your friends and your family, really working on being well-rounded, and then that serves their business. So I noticed something, you and I did a video call a few days ago, and I noticed something in the background behind you. Do you know what it was that I noticed behind you? You had a set of golf clubs by your back door.
Yeah.
I'd rather be playing golf with you this weekend than going for dinner with people here in Austin who just want to sit and have dinner and drinks.
Yeah.
I love golfing. So in my vivid vision, it talks about the fact that I play golf with business people. I go on hikes with business people. I travel the world with business people. I share my calendar with friends and entrepreneurs so that they can come travel with us. Instead of my old me was, hey, do you want to get together for dinner? Hey, do you want to get together for lunch? Why is it always around food? Why not around an activity? I love that I saw golf clubs behind you, right? So one of my new goals now is to play golf in 25 countries. So now it's as I'm traveling, and I'm not going to carry my golf clubs with me, but every golf course has got
them. Go rent.
Right. And then I just set out notes who are the entrepreneurs in town that want to play a game of golf, and I get invited to all the best golf clubs. And half the time they pay for me to play for them anyway, or play with them anyway, right? But
it's perfect.
That's what we need to be doing more of, and teaching our clients to do the same thing, right? Be focused on your hobbies, and then business will follow.
Man, I was in Singapore in 2021, and somebody asked me a question, which was, hey, outside of your business, you're not allowed to say anything about your business. What do you do for fun? And I'm still struggling with answering that today. but it's a pursuit, So now I'm starting to focus because it's hard when you do become an entrepreneur, which is something I want to talk about is who should be an entrepreneur and who shouldn't be an entrepreneur with you.
Yeah.
But when you do become it, you become so obsessed with the game of it that nothing else matters. And you're like, I want to learn Spanish. I want to be trilingual. I want to be fluent in Portuguese and Spanish, but then I'm having Spanish lessons. I'm like, oh, this is taking so much mental bandwidth away from my business.
No, it's allowing you to decompress a little bit from your business so you can show up as a racehorse. It's allowing you to relax a little bit so you can show up and be hyper-focused. What happens is we have these diminishing returns. If we work 16-hour days, the last 12 of those 16 hours are kind of crappy. The first 4 is when we really get the work done. So really work a little bit less, but be hyper-focused. Then get away from the business, decompress, and do something fun that charges you up with energy and then allows you to come back in and go hard again. So my brother has run his own company now for 30 years. We grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. It's all I've ever known. And whenever anyone asks my brother, what do? Do you know what his answer is? I golf, I hunt, I fish, kind of coach football. And then he waits for that weird look in their eyes and he goes, oh, do you mean what do I do to make money? Yeah, I don't talk about that.
America's the only place that talks about that.
Right?
And when you go to Europe, it's rude.
That's not what they mean. When they say, what do you do? They mean for fun.
Yeah.
Right? On weekends. So that's what we have to, again, teach all of our clients. And I think if we build these mastermind communities of better humans, they'll be more successful financially as well.
So let's get you rich and wealthy as a whole life human being,
Correct.
And that will trickle into your business. And it's funny that we say that because back to the original question,
and the best entrepreneurs are. Some of them are on tilt.
Yeah.
Elon's a little bit on tilt.
Yeah.
Richard Branson's not.
And that's the guy that I aspire to be. I don't think anybody watching this or listening to this wants to be Elon Musk. We're glad he exists.
Correct. He doesn't even want to be. If you've seen it on a few of his episodes, he cautions people like, you don't want my life. It's really hard.
Yeah. I mean, it's eating glass and staring into the abyss is what he compares entrepreneurship to. But
do you know that I met Elon the day that you were born, or right around 30
94?
years? 95. So I met his brother worked for me in 93, Kimball, and then his cousin, Peter Reeve, who built Solar City. So I got to know them then, but I was a reference for Elon in January of 95 for his first round of funding for Zip2. Yeah, nobody wants his life today.
No.
He was a healthier, more rounded human with passions. They used to play underwater hockey. Scuba hockey. That was like a passionate thing for him. He used to go to Burning Man. He still does, but he used to enjoy Burning Man a little bit more back in the day before people knew him.
Yeah, it's funny because a coach of mine recommended that I read a book, and it was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And I was in Italy reading that. And basically, for people that are unfamiliar with the book, he survived the concentration camps. He was a Jew in Nazi Germany. And so he was in Auschwitz. He was in the worst one. And he was an accomplished doctor. All of his friends were lawyers. They had all the success. They had all the accolades and all the ego. And they were reduced down to just like pajamas and, one pair of clothes. And the thing that he said that he optimized more than anything, the one thing that matters more than anything is love. And so for my vision, that's the one thing that I'm optimizing for throughout the entire vision is love. And I've got love compartmentalized into a couple of different types of love.
Right.
So I've got love for like a religious love, like a love with God. I've got love and a romantic love with like, I want to settle down and have a wife and have children. Love for my friends and for my family, and just optimize for love. And I feel like if you optimize for love, everything else will work out.
You're missing one big one.
Okay.
The love for yourself.
Yeah.
It's impossible for us to be better entrepreneurs if we love our business and we love our customers and we love our employees and we love our spouse and we love our kids, if we don't love ourselves first. It's like that saying on the airline, if we're having a problem, please put your mask on first and then help those around you with their masks. We really have to love ourselves. We have to wake up in the morning and like who we see in the mirror. We have to live by our own core values. We have to like our hobbies. And if we wake up in the morning and we're burned out and we don't even have any other hobbies, it's hard for us to give our best selves and grow our best selves and grow our best businesses, et cetera, right?
So I want to hit on this in particular because what we're talking about sounds really good and really aspirational, and everybody gets into entrepreneurship and investing in real estate and business for the end result that we're talking about. And now I'm 6 years deep in this, and I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? And you're 40 years deep into this. And so you've seen kind of every single bit and cycle. Yeah. But a lot of the people listening to this right now are working a job that they hate, or they're just through the process of buying a business or starting a company, or they've got this idea of entrepreneurship of what we are describing. but there's a lot of groundwork and a lot of systems and processes that need to be built in people to be able to yield the stuff that we're talking about. Because in the beginning, I thought, oh, okay, passive income, right?
Yeah.
And I think everyone's sick of talking about passive income because we've all realized it's a facade. And so what I've learned to be true is passivity is found on the other sides of profits, processes, and people. So it's like you're not doing the thing, which means you're managing somebody else that's doing the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's talk about entrepreneurship in general really quickly, and then how we build the team and systems to allow us to be able to travel the world and do what we want to do, because there's so many business owners that are running plumbing companies, that are running these, freelance gigs.
Sure, and they're stuck.
And they're in hell.
Yeah.
So who should be an entrepreneur versus who shouldn't be an entrepreneur?
Okay, there's a lot there to unpack. I'll try to go through it in a systemic way. First off, I hope that light at the end of the tunnel is not a train coming straight at you. Right? I've always
same.
people that, right? So we often have to be very cognizant of that. Like, I think I see this light at the end of the tunnel. There's always threats. There's always risks. There's always things to be cautious and careful of. Who should be an entrepreneur? Let me start with that first. Entrepreneurship has become too trendy. It's become too cool. Only 3% of the world, is my belief, really have the DNA traits, the actual entrepreneurial traits to be an entrepreneur. And then there's lots of skills that you can have to be an entrepreneur, that you need to be to build a company.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a difference between being an entrepreneur and being entrepreneurial. So being an entrepreneurial is finding something, like maybe you're a plumber or a copywriter or a journalist, and you can do that job for lots of companies. That's being entrepreneurial, not going to one place to get your paycheck 40 hours a week, but having lots of people paying you.
Mm-hmm.
Being an entrepreneur is building a company and people and systems that can actually scale for you to give you the freedom, right, the time and the money and the feeling of accomplishment that now something is actually doing it for me. So when you can make money in your sleep because your team is running it, your systems are running it, you're hitting some kind of a scale, that's what being an entrepreneur is.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the DNA traits, and these are going to be really weird ones to hear, most entrepreneurs are bipolar. Most entrepreneurs have attention deficit disorder.
Completely.
And most entrepreneurs are strong leadership and sales. So most entrepreneurs are very salesy, meaning they can sell themselves, they can sell other people on joining them, they can sell a banker or investors and putting their money in, they can sell people at quitting their jobs and coming and joining you, they can sell people on the team on driving towards a goal or working hard or working overtime. We have to be good at sales.
Mm-hmm. So natural charisma.
That charisma and that sales of, as I tell my two boys, one who already runs his own business at 21, who I really want to spend some time with you, by the way.
Go golf.
Well, he wants to come and do masterminds and do cool shit. He's already running his own business in Montreal. So I tell my two boys that no only means no in the bedroom. and every right, but it's true. But
That's a new one.
But
I like that one.
But every salesperson knows that, right? If a salesperson hears no, it just means I didn't explain myself. But if a marketer hears sales, they get all panicky and they run away. A true natural salesperson never gives up until we're told, like, F off, get the hell off my property.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I still didn't explain myself.
Yeah.
But no does mean no in the bedroom. But so number one, you got to be really good at sales. That's a DNA trait.
Yeah.
Lots of people are not good at sales. The other one is leadership. The ability to lead yourself, to lead others. And leadership traits are noticed in people at very young ages.
Mm.
You were probably leading the other kids. You were probably the ones to get the kids to go off and play the sports. You were getting the kids to do all the cool stuff. You were the one who was kind of misbehaving in class. You were the class clown, or the teacher's like, pay attention and stop distracting.
And I was always asking
that's leadership.
why. And I was always asking why. Why do we have to do it this way? Why do we have to do it this way? And I was bucking against the norm. I was bucking against
You're pushing a
conformity
system, right?
From the very beginning, because the system just existed because the system existed.
And you knew that at a very young age. That's a DNA trait. Okay, you can't teach that. You can, but it's a DNA trait.
Hmm.
The ADD, the school system and the medical system have said that attention deficit is a disorder. For an entrepreneur, it's one of the biggest skills.
Superpower.
Because it allows us to see everything. We see what's happening with the time, the market, the economy, our customers, our employees. We notice metrics out of place. We see trends. We hear things. We notice habits. We just see it all. And it becomes so overwhelming because we're seeing it all that we have to delegate to get some stuff off our plate.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're so myopically focused, like an engineer or a doctor or an accountant, that doesn't necessarily allow you to scale something up. You miss all of the other things because you're so hyper-focused, right?
Mm.
And then the last one is bipolar. Most entrepreneurs who are tested that are true entrepreneurs are on the scale for bipolar disorder to 9 10 or 11 of the 11 traits. I have 11 for 11. I have 17 of the 18 signs of attention deficit disorder, clinically diagnosed both. Bipolar, the reason that bipolar is a strength for entrepreneurs, the mania is why people follow us. It's why they quit their jobs. It's why they invest. It's that gregarious, crazy energy and optimism. That's mania. Mm-hmm. It's that uninformed optimism. The stress and depression is simply us course correcting because we can't tell people what's really happening. We can't tell people we're almost bankrupt, or we don't have enough money coming in, or we have no idea how we're going to hit these crazy goals, or come and join me, but I'm not sure if I can meet payroll yet, but come and work for me anyway because I'm sure we're going to figure it out. Or I'm not even paying myself yet, but I'm on social media showing how great my business is. That's the stress and depression is kind of the compounding effects that it has on us, which is why entrepreneurs need to take time away from the business to decompress. We need to spend time in masterminds with other entrepreneurs outside of our industry to be open and vulnerable with people who get it and have been there, because we can't tell our team or our employees or shareholders or the market of all the things that are scaring us and stressful. But it's
so hard.
And,
yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying that these are, and I'm not making light of either of them. One of my sons was clinically diagnosed with bipolar, was medicated and hospitalized for a little bit on a hypomanic episode, but most entrepreneurs are on the spectrum for those. Those are the 4 DNA traits. Then we have skills that you need to be an entrepreneur, which I can speak to if you want to, but those are different.
So that's going to be my follow-up question is, how much of entrepreneurship is nature versus nurture? Because there's this Peter Thiel quote that I love so much, which is, he goes, nobody's purely born an entrepreneur. You need to be molded into an entrepreneur. You need to work on it. So you even mentioned leadership, for example. And up until very recently, I've very much so bucked against leadership. Like, I love being the ideas guy of creating the vision for where the company is going. But I was like, man, I do not want to be in these meetings. I don't want to be telling people what to do.
That's management.
Yeah.
Leadership is different from management. Leadership is selling vision,
mm-hmm.
showing culture, showing up with charisma and energy, right? That energy, that momentum, creating momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Management is ensuring that people are doing the things that need to be done, following up on details.
I'd rather die.
Right. And that's a COO role. That's the role of a second in command. That's the integrator versus a visionary.
Mm-hmm.
But don't confuse the difference between leadership and management.
So how would you define, so if somebody's listening to this right now and they say, okay, I just heard what Cameron said about leadership. How can I know that I'm a leader? Because sometimes people just don't have a frame of reference to actually know.
Leadership, again, is going back and looking at all the things you were doing at a very young age. Like, I was the top scout, the top cub, coaching a little ski team, running all these little businesses, captain of a team at school. I was on student council. I was on the sports council. Like, I was doing
perpetual overachiever.
Well, no, I was an underachiever. I was getting 65% on all my tests and exams. I was poor as a student, but I was always leading all the other kids, leading all the other students, right? I was the one who would corral all the groups to go and do some cool stuff. That was leadership. But I wasn't very good at the scholastic side of the business. All of my friends were the really smart 95% students. But they all were at my home doing stuff. They were at my parties doing stuff, right? I was hiring all my friends when I was 20. I had 12 employees.
Is there data on that? Is there data? I feel like I saw some data about where the valedictorians and the ones that did the best in
often
school
work for the C players. Yeah. There's lots of data around that. Yeah.
Wow.
The difference nowadays is there's a lot of tech entrepreneurs, but they tend to be good at the tech stack. They're good at selling vision, and then they're good at hiring people who can actually execute on the company. It's that 2-in-a-box model. Most entrepreneurs, I had a discussion. Do you know Guy Raz, who has the show How I Built This?
Oh, I know the show. Yeah.
So Guy and I have hung out at the TED conference for years. And I asked him one day, I said, all these amazing entrepreneurs that you're talking about on How I Built This, Kendra Scott, who's from Austin, Brian Scudamore. I've known them since they were very, very early stage. I knew Kendra when she was $2 million in revenue. Now she, is a billionaire and has a G5.
Yep.
Kendra had a second in command, Lon. Lon built the company to execute on her vision. Most successful entrepreneurs have a second in command. They have the person to make the business happen, to put the systems in place. Sadly, most entrepreneurs grow their skills and they're like a duck flying around in a circle. A duck has to grow both wings. You got to grow the second in command skills, grow the skills of your leadership team, and grow yours. Sadly, a lot of entrepreneurs also think they have to be good at everything because the school system said, get a tutor and get better at your weaknesses. Delegate your weaknesses. Hire people to do your weaknesses. When I was 21, second year university or third year university, I hired someone to do all my accounting assignments. I paid him in beer. I was running a bar, traded him in beer. Every week, I kid you not, Monday night, the accounting assignment would show up under my door. I would slip it under the professor's door the next day. And I did very well on all my assignments. The night before my final, I was talking to my dad and I said, Dad, I'm totally going to fail the final tomorrow. He goes, why? And I told him the story and he started laughing. He said, what do you want to do when you graduate? I said, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. He said, what have you learned from hiring someone to do all your accounting assignments? And I said that I don't know accounting. He said, no, you learned how to hire an accountant. And that's a real special skill.
Yeah.
Is how do you hire someone to do the stuff you're weak at? But the school system said, no, you're a failure at accounting. I make more than all of my university professors combined. And 15 years later, I was the expert on chapter 7 of the accounting textbook used by all accounting students in Canada on budgeting. And I told the author that I cheated in the course. She goes, it doesn't matter. I still need to use you as the expert on budgeting. So I knew how to hire an expert, right?
And it's funny.
Those are skills. You need to learn that stuff.
I'm curious if you have any. I'm sure you have 100 of these because I have 100 of these myself. Where you meet the guy or you meet the girl that you've been idolizing, you've been looking up to, and you're like, you must be special. There's something about you. You're a billionaire. You're this top author. You're this top person, and you meet them all, and you go, I mean, yeah, you're great, but you're not like exceptional.
Do you know what's interesting for me is I've never looked at entrepreneurs at any level of with that kind of, oh my gosh, you must be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was because I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs and it was demystified for me at a very early age. When I was 15, I could have told you all the people that owned all the car dealerships in the city I grew up in, all the people that owned the clothing stores. So I knew all these entrepreneurs. So there was nothing mystical about them. They were just friends of my parents. There was nothing cool. The people that I was amazed with, like I was in awe of, were the goalies in the NHL and the national ski team members who raced downhill. Those were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And they did have something special, man. Like I got to ski around a couple of those and they're just demigods.
Yeah.
But business people, they didn't really ever get me because I think it's just, again, a DNA trait with a lot of work, a lot of hard work.
It's funny that you say that because a quote that I love is you only grow to what you're exposed to. And so from when you're saying that, from the very beginning, you had that benefit of being just exposed to new levels. And then now it's an example of this is I was at a mastermind event and this gentleman was talking about his $1 million pool. And I just never, like I'm buying $1 million companies. I never thought about buying $1 million pool.
Well, do you know where the concept comes from? It comes from one of the Beatles said, what are we going to write? What song are we going to write that's going to allow us to build that pool? Yeah. And that became the $1 million pool, was the $1 million songs. Like, what's the one singular focus thing you're going to have that's going to create that big thing? It was one of the Beatles that talked about the $1 million pool. Yeah. So you and I are doing something very similar. We're putting ourselves in a room where we're not the smart people anymore.
That's wonderful.
Isn't it? Like, fuck, I walk out.
People say, how are you not cocky? Easily.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're in the wrong room.
There's also I talked to my son about this too. There's a very fine line between confidence and cockiness. And the idea is, how do you get yourself very close to cocky and bring it back 5%? Because if you're over the line, you'll never be successful.
You know what my favorite definition to cockiness over confidence is? Noise. That's the only difference. Yeah. It's because the confident person and the cocky person can both be equally like amazing at something. And the only difference is the cocky person has to go tell everybody about it.
Well, you can still tell everybody when you're confident, but I think the confidence is also you've been beat up a few times and then you realize like we are just humans. We're all going to die too. Like
none of us are getting
this. And none of this shit really matters in the first place. Mm-hmm. So then keep that confidence right at that level. One of the core skills of an entrepreneur is the ability to protect their own confidence. Because we get beat up, because we're told no, because we're hitting all these failure points. So it's how do you state shift? How do you actually protect your confidence on a daily basis? How do you build yourself up to be able to go, okay, let's go do this again? Because you're getting hit from every single direction and we're not reporting to anybody in our company who's going, good job. No one's giving us praise. So we have to be able to find that praise within ourselves. It's a very, very big skill for an entrepreneur to protect their own confidence.
Question on that. Is confidence more important or is courage more important? Because I'm taking this one from Layla Hormozi, who you had on your podcast.
Client of mine.
Yeah. So Layla said, confidence comes from the repeated taking of actions. Like you said, you build confidence from the doing of the thing. Mm-hmm. But there's a person that's listening to this or watching this that hasn't yet done the thing. And so they can't have confidence out of thin air to do the thing if they haven't done it before. So you have courage to do it. So courage is a decision to begin. And then once you begin, that's where you get the reps in to build the confidence. So.
Yeah, I think it's both. Again, because you can go back and draw on the courage from other things that you've done to get here. You know,
So
like,
a body of evidence outside of what you've already done, but where you've had excellence in other areas of
right.
life.
Like, again, if you're going to start your own company saying, oh my God, I don't know how to lead people, you were probably leading people when you were 20. What did you learn? So it's going back and re-examining all the jobs you've ever had, all the roles you've ever been in, re-examine your life and what did you do well and what did you not do well? What were the lessons? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And re-examining that, coaching yourself or getting somebody to help you figure that stuff out so that then all of a sudden you can draw on that confidence. I remember this is again going back 30 years ago. I was just leaving a private currency company that we built and sold, took the company public, sold for 64 million in 2000. And I was really broken apart. I wasn't sure what I was going to do for the next stage of my career. And I sat down with a group of entrepreneurs and I had them tell me all the things I was good at that I'd forgotten about. And one of them was like, oh, you're really good at franchising. I'm like, really? Like I just did house painting. They were, yeah, but you also did auto body and look what you did in house painting. And I needed other people to show me the stuff that I was good at to get my confidence layer back up again so that I could then go about it again. So I kind of agree with where Layla's going with that. But I think we can all go back and re-examine our lives to give us the confidence to then have the courage to do the next thing, which gives us confidence. With managers and leaders, I always say it's like they're climbing up two ladders. One ladder is skills, one ladder is confidence. And their job is to grow people's skills and grow their confidence and grow their skills and grow their confidence. Similar to what she's talking about with the courage and confidence.
I love that. Let's talk quickly about, to kind of circle back.
And just on Layla Hormozi for a second too. These are people are looking up to Layla and Alex and going, oh my God, they're incredible. Do you know how much they've spent time learning as well? Yeah. They came to an event that I ran 7 years ago about building a company, world-class culture, and they were there sitting in the room learning, right? Everybody is always learning. Mm-hmm. So don't think that somebody out there who's hyper successful, Dan Martell, who you know, Dan is like a big thought leader right now. I've known Dan for 15 years. Dan attends masterminds to learn. The best of the best have coaches still. The best athletes have coaches. So I think for anybody who's starting their own business, don't kind of aspire to be somebody who's figured it out. Those people are still growing too. Every day, the best are still trying to get better.
10-year overnight success.
Yeah, right? It takes a long time to get the night before.
Yeah. So when I first started Action Academy, our company, I did all the things he said not to do. So I kind of did it wrong, which I'm still glad I did. It was just experience in life, but I just worked. And in the beginning, you're everything, your marketing, your sales, your fulfillment. And that's through the context of building a company from scratch. And I built this and I bootstrapped it from scratch. And then I learned about hiring and I learned about this concept called a visionary integrator, kind of rocket fuel. And I learned about COOs and presidents. And you said something that was really interesting to me that a few years ago, like changed my business, which was people give away titles too early. So can you please talk about like from everything from a startup to a side hustle to growing a company, what are these operations roles and how do the roles and titles kind of evolve? Because when people start a company, you're like, I'm the CEO.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so titles became very trendy starting in 1995. The reason it started in 1995 is when everyone got an email address for the first time. So with our email address, we had our signature, which was the person's name and a title. Yeah. So banks were the first companies to give out vice president titles to everyone. Literally. I remember literally in 1995, my old roommate in college, I go, oh my God, you're a VP. He goes, Cam, everybody's a VP.
I remember that in American Psycho.
So it started in 1995 as titles became trendy. Then all of a sudden, people wanted equity in lieu of compensation. They wanted stock options instead of getting paid a lot. When the stock market crashed and the NASDAQ dropped by 78% in 2000, 2001, all of a sudden everybody wanted a title and getting paid well, and they wanted equity. So that was where the trend started. So now we got elevation in every category. We got CFO, CMO, CTO. We got a C-level for everything. Now we've got a CRO, a Chief Revenue Officer, which is basically a C-level for the head of sales. It used to be called the Vice President of Sales, but they wanted a C-level too. So let me talk about just operations as an example. But even in finance, you could have a controller, a director of finance, a finance manager, a vice president of finance, a chief financial officer. They're very different based on the title. So here's how you get a real C-level title. A true chief of anything has to bring in a lot of strategic insight into the company that the CEO or leadership team doesn't necessarily have. So they have to be able to see the business from a landscape that is very different from what you see it at today, which is some wisdom they're bringing into the table.
Experience.
And and wisdom, where they've just seen it before, right? They have that sixth sense because they've been around it so much, and they can actually think and approach things strategically, which is different from planning. Strategy and planning are very different.
What's the difference?
I'll get to that in a second. I'll just earmark that one as a bookmark. Second thing is they have to be good at handling budgets and cash flow and the financial side of the business. They have to be good at actually managing the P&L and the balance sheet and cash flow and budgets of a business. Third, they have to be good at leading and dealing with people. So stuff like situational leadership, coaching, time management, delegation, running interviews. They have to be good at all the soft skills of leadership to be a true C-level person. They also have to come in with a level of autonomy where they can actually come in and just hit the ground running and do their job, and you're not delegating stuff to them. The more stuff you delegate to someone, the more junior their title is. The more they're telling you what needs to get done, the more senior their title is. So when I came into 1-800-GOT-JUNK as an example, 25 years ago as their COO, there were only 14 people in the company. My original title was Vice President Operations. I got the C-level title about 2 years later. The first 2 years I was there, nothing was delegated to me. I was showing Brian, the CEO, everything we needed to do. And he's like, I don't know how to do this. I'm like, I've done it twice. So when I'm showing him what needs to be done, he doesn't know how to do it. I've done it before. I can bring people with me and partners with me and suppliers with me, and I understand the landscape. That's a true C-level person, right? Those are the core differences. And then the last part is, what's the pay that you're willing to pay them? Because if you tell somebody they're a COO, I guarantee you within 6 months, they're on Indeed and Glassdoor and Google and ChatGPT wondering what COOs get paid. A real COO is paid between $300,000 and $500,000 a year. Well, if you're paying somebody $120 and they think they're a COO, they think they're underpaid. Well, really, they're more of a director of operations. Then why didn't you call them that in the first place? So what ends up is they're underpaid. They get frustrated they're underpaid. They want more money. And they don't operate like a C-level in the first place. So that causes all these frustrations.
So I agree with you. And like, this is the next level that we're about to get to is now we're right in the messy middle right now. So, but a lot of people that are listening to this are in the very beginning stages, or they're trying to get in the beginning stages, and they're not even going to have access to this. So they're going to be listening to this and say, okay, cool, that makes sense for one day. But right now they're trying to buy a plumbing company, and there's like a guy that's a manager, and then there's like 4 guys that are working underneath him. And so how do you kind of navigate that relationship in the beginning? Because that's also what I've gone through is it's like you're kind of the blind leading the blind. You hire people in operations, and that's not a slight to anyone.
Yeah.
It's just you're both learning together in the beginning.
So here's where the stages change at every 1 and 3 in your company. When you go from 100,000 in revenue to 300,000 to 1 million to 3 million to 10 million to 30 million to 100 million. So here's the inflection point and changes. When you're at 100,000 in revenue, you can start to hire your first person to do some stuff for you. You're kind of replacing most of your job. You can pay some of your overhead. You maybe hire a freelancer or a fractional person or an EA. When you get to 300,000, you can probably start to hire your first 1 full-time person, maybe 2 or 3 fractional part-time people. When you get to 1 million, you probably have your first manager, somebody who's managing some of those freelancer people for you. When you get to 3 million, you have your first management team. Some people that are running different areas, they're managing the people for you. You're probably managing 4 or 5 people who are managing 4 or 5 or 10 others.
That's the stage that we're at.
But they're not seasoned leaders yet. They're managers. They're not even directors. They're not VPs. They're certainly not C-level, because you can't afford to pay those people $300,000 a year if you're only doing $3 million in revenue. When you get to 10 million in revenue, you're starting to attract and hire your first true seasoned leadership team people who have actually built companies before, who can start to show you what to do. And then when you go from 10 to 30 million is when you have a first team of real, true leaders that have done it and built it before. It doesn't really matter. We don't have to talk about what happens after that. On the numbering of employee side, when you go from 1 person to 3 to 10 to 30 to 100 employees to 300 employees, similar changes happen. When it's just you starting the business, you just got to do stuff. You got to prioritize your stuff. And I can explain how I did that back in the 1-800-GOT-JUNK days. When you have 3, you can delegate a little bit. It's kind of like delegating some stuff. We're going to work together. It's kind of quick and it's agile. And it's fun. When you're at 10, you have your first person who's managing some people for you. You got some breathing room, right? They're helping and growing some stuff. You get to 30, you got a management team. Making sense?
Yeah.
The early stage entrepreneur person buying a company, starting a company when it's you or you and a couple of people, what I like to do is draw what my org chart would look like if I was a $10 million company. If I had a whole bunch of people running areas, what are all the different areas? I'm not going to hire them, but I want to at least know, okay, I have customer service, I've got marketing, I have sales, I have operations, I've got IT, I've got finance, I've got strategy. Okay, what percentage of my time will I spend in each box? Oh, I'll spend 10% of my time in marketing, 20% of my time in sales, 5% in finance, 10% in PR. Shit, I don't have enough time to spend on all these areas. What can I start to hire for first? That was what I first did at 1-800-GOT-JUNK, was I delineated the amount of time that I would spend and focus on certain areas. And then I was starting to hire the people that would grow revenue and gross margin first, which would allow me to then sit and build the actual company. Because there's not a single problem that exists that writing a check can't solve. So as long as I focused on growing revenue and gross margin, I then had that money to then hire people to build a better business. I think often entrepreneurs get stuck trying to build a better business, but they don't have enough revenue to get them there.
Yeah, it's really what comes first, the chicken or the egg.
Right.
And I've gone through all of exactly what you're saying, and now we're kind of getting to that point where it's everyone's learning together, and then now it's starting to be to where we brought in a consultant. We're doing a lot more of like kind of the consultants now, where it's but it's an expensive consultant, but they can come in and help you kind of fractionalize things. So we just hired somebody to help us with sales and build our sales team out, and we said, holy shit, okay, this is what this looks like.
Right.
Because we had no idea.
And that's where a true fractional expert is invaluable to a company.
It's amazing.
Because you can't afford to have them full time. Do you know that my original company, when I started it 18 years ago, was called the Back Pocket COO?
Yeah, still one of your emails, right?
Yeah, it's before the term fractional COO existed, but my marketing always said, you can't afford me full time, but you can't not afford to have me in your back pocket. Right? Pull me out when you need me. Ask me questions when you want. Let me coach you. Let me guide you. Let me run your strategy. But you can't afford to pay me $1 million a year to be there full time. But for $100,000 a year, you can't afford to not have the wisdom to help you not have to make all the mistakes you'll make without me. And I think that's really important to have those fractional heads of marketing, fractional heads of finance, fractional heads of sales to help companies. The key is to find the ones that actually have your best interest at heart, that are going to keep you focused on growing towards your vision, because they can take you in lots of directions. And they can focus on the critical few things that are like launching satellites, things that'll pay dividends for years, because they can often get into the busy work, sometimes not on purpose, but they can sometimes make the business more complex than something that is like a flywheel that's kicking in your favor.
Yeah. I want to talk more about the skill stuff, but first I want to do a favor for everybody else that's listening that is like, okay, I'm nowhere near $10 million. That's the stuff I enjoy talking about, but right now I want to do them a quick favor. And so I want to go back to, so let's say that Cameron Herold is the back pocket COO that's getting pulled out, and somebody is listening to this. They hear about business buying all the time, and now they're actively looking to buy a business, and maybe they've got this $3 million roofing company or concrete company that they're buying that's got maybe like 3 to 6 employees, and they're coming in to take over this company, and now they're the owner. And the previous owner was like, okay, cool, I was pretty passive. Of course they were. They were working that for 10 years, and they built the company from scratch. What's a playbook that you can give or some advice you can give to that person that just now went from I'm working in corporate America to now I'm a business owner through acquisition? Maybe some best practices, best rules of thumb for taking over that company, and now all of a sudden you have 8 employees.
Okay, so there's going to be 2 components to this. Number one is you really, really, really have to learn the industry. Corporate America is irrelevant when it comes to running the business in an industry that you have no experience in. And don't underestimate how important it is to at least understand that industry. So I would be watching everything and reading everything and going to events and going to trade shows, and I would just become maniacal at understanding that industry, not to a gold level standard, but certainly to a bronze or a silver.
Enough to be dangerous.
Enough to be certainly competent, right? Like at least understand what the fuck you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So not even, I think dangerous, you're getting to silver or gold, but enough that you at least know what the hell you're talking about,
Sure.
Right? You got to know the industry. When I got into the house painting industry, it meant that I could at least paint a couple of windows and doors as fast as I wanted my painters to be, but I wouldn't be able to do it 40 hours a week. But I knew how to paint a house. I knew the technical parts of running a house. I knew enough that I could then hire the people who could really learn it. Right? I hated house painting, but I got my hand in the paint can. So I think that's one.
So get your hands dirty.
Yeah, and really get to know the industry and really get to appreciate the industry so that you can understand the complexities of what you're really building. If you try to think about what auto body or house painting or any business you're buying from the corporate perspective, you're going to fail completely.
Yeah, you already lost. You're playing the wrong game.
Completely. The next thing is to really learn the art of running an entrepreneurial small company. So that means reading the E-Myth, reading Traction, spending time with entrepreneurs. Again, what you saw in terms of running big companies is irrelevant in running a 4 or 8 person company. I remember years ago, I hired the head of marketing for Canada for McDonald's. He also was the head of marketing at one point for Dairy Queen. And I was like, oh, this guy's going to be a great head of marketing for us, because we were a franchise company.
Mm-hmm.
He came in and we only had like 25 locations. In his first day, he said, who fills out the FedEx slips? I'm like, oh my God, this is the wrong hire.
Yeah.
Like, he's just not an entrepreneur, right? He, of course, in corporate America, someone fills out your FedEx slips, but when you're a 20-person company, you do it yourself, right? So you need to make sure that you understand what it really is like being an entrepreneur, being in the day-to-day and focusing on the critical few things. So I think it is reading the E-Myth. I think it is reading Traction. I think it is getting those entrepreneurial DNA skills. I luckily got my real-world MBA at College Pro Painters, where I was 20 years old. I got a franchise of this house painting business. They handed me a 345-page manual. I was so terrified of failure that I just memorized the manual. I think you have to memorize the entrepreneurial manual to at least know those core skills to run a business. That would be my starting point.
It's just to kind of go through it. Like, if I could go back and do it differently, I think I would have just had to go through it for 2 years.
There's a bit of that, but I also don't like this whole thing of like failure is good because you learn from failure. What about if you can actually preempt that and you can actually avoid the failure because you learned what was going to be coming and you can spot it before it gets there? What if failure isn't necessarily a good thing? Like, I know plenty of kids who ride a bicycle really, really well, and they didn't have to fall off and scrape their knee and break some bones. You know, I didn't necessarily learn to be a better ski racer by breaking all the bones I broke ski racing.
Can we talk about this as a topic really quickly? Because I think this is really, really important. Not breaking bones, but I mean, metaphorically, kind of breaking bones. I mean, this whole like hustle culture, like the grind culture, because like you said, it's like failure doesn't need to be like this badge of honor. It's like in the same conversation, it's like, does hustle and grind need to be the badge of honor? Because I love this one conversation I heard recently, which was, you know, we're sacrificing what we want, which is happiness, for the pursuit of happiness, which is through success. And we're saying we're going to delay being happy through grinding really hard so that one day we can have success, so that hopefully we're happy one day.
So I think grinding and hustle is critical for a finite amount of time.
Okay.
Not all day. You don't want to be the fly banging your head on the window all day long, who what happens? They just end up dead on the windowsill. So you need to work hard, but you need to work hard on the critical few things versus the important many. You need to work hard on driving the flywheel forward versus on all the busy work. So I even remember back when I came into 1-800-GOT-JUNK, again, 25 years ago, but I decided, because they were only doing $2 million in revenue, what the 3 things were that we were going to focus on for the year. And those 3 things became obsessions, but everything else was a distraction to those obsessions. So we worked really, really hard on the critical few things, and we didn't worry about all the other stuff.
How do you, for somebody that's a new entrepreneur, decipher what the critical few is versus the unimportant many?
I look for it's almost like launching a satellite, that it takes a lot of effort to get the satellite in orbit, but once it's in orbit, it pays dividends forever. It just keeps, that it doesn't cost a penny to have the satellites go around the Earth now. They just go for free. There's no fuel, there's nothing. So what's the thing that if I push really hard on will pay dividends for a long time? I remember years ago, I was coaching a CEO of a company in Toronto, Canada. It's called Viva Naturals. If you go look at their brand on Amazon, they own everything in the health category right now. Some of their products have 100,000 reviews on Amazon. So Viva Natural coconut oil, like 150,000 reviews. But in the early stages, all that Hussein, the CEO, focused on was, how do I get more Amazon reviews? How do I get more Amazon reviews? How do you get more Google reviews? Right? Google reviews, Amazon reviews, if you can really push for those pay dividends forever. Right? How do I get more customer testimonial videos? How do I get more good footage of all my events? Those pay dividends forever. You can use some of your marketing photos from some of your events from 4 years ago for the next 10 years until people's clothing is out of date, right? Those things are dividends. So you hire a photographer early and then you use that forever. Find those little things that will pay you dividends forever. That's number one. Number two is find something that is a low PETA factor, low pain in the ass factor. What are the things that you can do that require a little bit of time, a little bit of people, a little bit of money that will pay you a higher ROI? Those are my starting points.
I love that. So it's like a ROE, return on effort.
Return on effort and return on money and return on time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I love
And you know what happens is a lot of times that the IT people, the engineers, they overcomplicate stuff, not on purpose, but these are people that like to solve big, crazy, complex problems. So they think in big, crazy, complex ways.
Yeah.
It's why Elon thinks the exact opposite of that. He is so smart, but he looks for that like, aha, stupid, simple solution for the overcomplicated.
Well, what he says is the number one problem and the number one fault of an engineer is optimizing something that should never have existed.
In the first place. I think it was Winston Churchill who said, I'm sorry this memo is so short. It would have been even shorter had I had more time. Right? So it's like simplify and focus on the simplification of things.
Yeah, I love that.
And have some fun along the way. Like I love that Elon's, Model S, Model 3, Model X, and Model Y spells sexy. And I love that the map of where the Tesla robotaxi is driving in Austin the shape of a penis. Like you can have some fun along the way, right? Like he's building some of the most incredible companies in the world, and he has some fun along the way too. And I think that's something to remember.
And they even made Doge, Department of Governmental Efficiency.
Right. And it also strangely tied into Dogecoin a little bit too, right? Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
I want to go back to another selfish question. So you said that you joined 1-800-GOT-JUNK at $2 million in revenue.
Yeah.
And then, so at that point, you'd already built and done a couple of companies?
3 other ones, yeah.
So I'm already way past $2 million in revenue, and I'm looking for, so you came in as you said VP of operations and then the COO.
Correct.
So how did they attract you at $2 million? Because for me, that seems like not that much of revenue.
It wasn't, yeah.
And so how did they attract you, and what's some advice that you can give to somebody that is already making a little bit of income and they're thinking about their second in command, their COO, and they say, shit, I'm just telling them what to do all the time.
Yeah.
And now from what Cameron is saying, for them to truly be the best bang for their buck, they should be telling me what to do.
It's because you're hiring a director, not a COO. So there were only 3 things that happened that allowed Brian to attract me to become that second in command for him. And there were 3 very, very defined things. The first was he had a vision for what his company was going to look like. So what I call the vivid vision. He had a 2-page description. He used to call it a painted picture of what 1-800-GOT-JUNK was going to look like, act like, and feel like December 31st, 2023. So 2003. Yeah. He showed me this document and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I know how to do all of this. So I saw myself as able to help him make his vision come true. That was number 1. Number 2 was we knew each other. We were in a mastermind community for 4 years. He'd surrounded himself with other smart people who were growing companies so that he knew the who's, right? The book Who Not How by Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan.
Yeah.
You have to know the right people who can help you make it come true. Because we were in an EO forum together for 4 years, he saw me build these 2 other companies. He already knew me. He liked me. He trusted me. He was my best man at my wedding 3 months before I joined him. So he'd put himself into a community to know a lot of smart people. That was number 2. Number 3 was when I saw my fit and saw the stuff that I was able to do and I showed him, he was like, oh my God, can you come and just do that? I have no idea what to do. So it allowed me to go, I get to actually do the stuff that I know how to do and I'm really good at. That gave me the passion to get engaged in something, because then I was going to be doing really fun stuff that I was really, really good at. The rest of it would take care of itself over time, which it did.
So if you were to put on a note card or give a TED talk on how somebody can attract top level talent like that, when you're at that level.
Well, no one's going to join your company based on what it looks like today. Your company or anybody else's. No one's going to join our company based on what it looks like today, but they will join our company based on what it's going to look like 3 years from now. So craft a 4 or 5 page description of what your company looks like, acts like, and feels like 3 years in the future, right? It's called the Vivid Vision. Read the book Vivid Vision or watch the TEDx talk, Your Vision Statement Sucks. That will help you to explain what you're building. That's how people will be inspired to come, because they want to help make it come true.
And people glance and gloss over. I mean, I literally run a community now where we'll have over 1,000 people next year, and the first thing we tell them to do is write their vivid vision.
Right.
And we show, I literally put on the screen, it's like me and you talking. I'm like, this is what you need to do. And they still just gloss over and then go, yeah, okay, that vision stuff. I'm going to just get to work. I'm like, okay, cool. That's what you do as an employee.
What happens is then they get frustrated that all these employees are coming to them with stupid ideas. It's because their employees can't see the future of what they're trying to build, or they're trying to organize people and align them, and they're always trying to organize them. Well, it's because they don't see what you're trying to build. If everyone can see where they're going, if everyone sees that commonality, they can drive towards it. And then there's also the inspiration around people. Have you ever heard me tell the story of the three guys making bricks? So 125 years ago in Spain, Barcelona, where I'm sure you've been, there's these three guys sitting in the dirt and they're making bricks. And they asked the first guy, what are you doing? He said, I'm making bricks. They asked the second guy, what are you doing? He said, I'm building a wall and I get to make the bricks to build a wall. They asked the third guy, what are you doing? He said, we're building a cathedral to worship God. It's the Sagrada Familia, and I get to make the bricks to build the left wall of the cathedral. I get chills just telling that story because the guy who's building the Sagrada Familia is so much more inspired than the guy who's making bricks. And all three of them are just making bricks. So the way that you get your employees inspired and excited is to show them the vision of what you're building. You've been to the Sagrada Familia, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're doing, is sharing people what now.
And it's still being constructed, to your point in the example, still being constructed
to this day,
decades and decades after Antonio Gaudi's death.
Yeah, it was 125 years ago it was started. I was there 2 months ago, again, for like the 7th time. Now, you don't want to show people the vision of your company 125 years from now. That's too far out. But a BHAG combined with a vivid vision are very powerful. So Elon shares the BHAG for what he's building. Colonizing Mars is a big, hairy, audacious goal, right? Democratizing the world's information for Google is a BHAG. Putting a computer on every desktop for Microsoft is a BHAG. That's important. But the vivid vision of describing what your company looks like, acts like, and feels like in the future is how everyone gets aligned. And then when you write one of those for yourself and your friends and your family and your spouse and everyone around you know who you're becoming as a human, that's where it gets exciting to wake up in the morning as well.
So anybody that's the high performer is going to join for what your company's going to become, not what you are today.
And anyone who wants to be around you as a person is going to be around you because they're inspired for who you're becoming, not for who they see today.
Yeah. I call that imagine if versus remember when friends. Imagine if friends are, okay, cool. Imagine if we did this. Imagine if we went there. Imagine if we started this. And remember when friends. I remember back in college when we did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's almost tiring. Like those discussions are also tiring.
Yeah, and then you're all of a sudden you're just repeating the same year.
God,
with these
I used
people.
to be that person too. I remember all of my discussions when I would bump into friends. It always was about where am I going, or what have we done. I remember high school, and that's not what I talk about those same people about today. I've completely shifted. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much more fun.
Yeah,
because your future focus versus ruminating in the past. Because then you just repeat the same year 20 years.
All the time. It's why your spouse is so tired of your stories, because they're always the same stories, because you're not talking about your dreams and where you're going. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Remember if, or no, what if?
Imagine if, or remember when.
I like that.
Yeah. So in closing,
that might be a new tattoo.
Yeah. Boom. There you go. Just put my face next to it.
Go.
Yeah. Or just like, I'll do the signature and you can just get it tattooed on there. If everything was erased from the internet and all your books are erased and you could only leave the world with one part of Cameron Herold, one piece of advice, what would you leave them with? None
of this stuff matters. We're all just walking each other home.
You want to say more on that? Or leave it?
Well, it's the Ram Dass quote of walking each other home. It's my tattoo that I got in Hindi on my arm to remind me of that, is that none of this really does matter. This is just what we do to make money, that we are just this little tiny speck in the universe. So I was in Tonga 2 weeks ago swimming with whales. Tonga is this little remote island nation near Fiji. And I didn't know this, but do you know that there are more planets in the universe? There's more planets in the universe than there are grains of sand on Earth. Think about that for a second. There's more planets than grains of sand on Earth. I mean, I was on one beach and there were so many grains of sand. That is an extraordinary amount of planets.
Yeah.
We're a speck. It doesn't matter. None of this shit really matters. And I think it's just remembering that in this 80 years or 100 years or 20 years that we have, let's enjoy the journey and let's enjoy the relationships and let's take care of each other on this journey, because at the end of the day, we're dust again.
At the end of the day, every single struggle, every single hardship, everything that you're going through, you're either going to figure it out or you're going to die. Either way. Like, that's the mathematical certainty. You're going to figure it out or you're going to die anyways. So Might as well not stress about it.
So enjoy the journey, right? And take care of each other. And also to remember that everybody is struggling too. I think there's something that I've really learned about that is that the humanity of every single person that we encounter is struggling with something, their health or a relationship or finances or a worry or something is bothering everybody. And if we can just take care of each other along that journey, it gives us more purpose. It gives us more energy. We shows up a better person. It attracts everything from God in the right way too.
Love it. If people want to find out more about you, if they want to learn more from you, where can they go?
Easiest place is CameronHerold.com, and it's Herold. CameronHerold.com has got links to my podcast, my books, my course, the Alliance. It's all there.
Boom.
Yeah.
Sweet, man. Long time coming. It's been a fun one.
Awesome. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
guys. It's been Cameron and Brian with the Action Academy podcast, signing off.
Thank you.
Boom.